Hey, how's it going, guys? So, some hot news just released from Creative Assembly today in a new blog is the introduction of a new class of historical Total War games, released under a new badge called Total War Saga. These games will be standalone spin-off titles focusing on exciting pivotal moments in history rather than whole historical eras. So if you watched my video which I did the other week talking about the possibility of a Total War Alexander in the works, well, this could be it. In the video I talked about there being 3 historical teams in the works. The brand new historical era team, which is the big Total War, which is coming probably in 2020 or 2021. The DLC for an existing game, which is going to be coming out later this year, and then the new historical game covering an era that has already been visited. Also, they were referred to as the Flashpoint team. Well, this new series is going to be under that Flashpoint team. And so it looks to be like a new style of games which are going to continue for years to come and not just stopping at whatever this title is going to be. This is really great news, and it gives Total War the opportunity to explore so many different points in history, and with them, as he said in the blog, these games will cover key pivotal points in history, so it will really allow the games to focus really in depth to add a lot of immersion and experience to the period that they're going to cover for us. So let me read some important points which the blog mentions. So with our big releases that cover entire eras like Rome or Empire, we've been following them up with standalone games that focus on a single character's life and the time around them, like Napoleon or Attila. This is why I mentioned and thought about an Alexander game. But there are also key pivotal points in history which don't necessarily revolve around a single character and only last a few months or a few decades at most. Such moments also tend to be constructed into a tight geographical area as well. So I'm thinking straight away here we could have things like the War of the Roses, obviously Total War Alexander as I mentioned, the American War of Independence, the Crusades, key moments in Roman history like, I don't know, possibly the time of Cleopatra in Egypt, and all the sort of bickering and wars between the general head of states of Rome like Augustus and Mark Antony, people like that, possibly. So we can really go into depth with these key moments. So yes, they're going to be covering eras that we've already covered before on other games, but really focusing on them now, really to add so much more to them than before. And with them being single standalone games, they can really add a lot in that regard. So these moments are perfect fuel for Total War. They're a powder keg where anything can happen and history could have gone in any direction, which is what the beauty, of course, of Total War is all about. Sagas are epic stories, and we felt that name described those moments well and allows us to go into the kind of individual detail we love. So Total War Saga games will be the same mix of turn-based campaign strategy, real-time battle tactics, and hundreds if not thousands of hours of gameplay as regular Total War games are. So as it says here, they're going to be keeping to that very key core element of Total War. So it's not going to be like a spin-off series in a way that they're going to be adding new mechanics and new features and quirky little features and things that we've never seen before. They are going to be exactly all the core mechanics of what we're used to, but as it says here, focused down on a distinctive moment. Sagas won't be revolutionary new titles or introduce brand new eras, so obviously we're going to be waiting for the big historical title later on down the line for that. They'll follow on from previous Total War games and inhabit the same time period, or at the very least relate to it. That's why I mentioned things like the War of the Roses, which of course can be related to, because we've covered medieval history before but not actually covered that particular part of the history in so much detail. Also, you could look at maybe elements and particular moments within the 100 Years' War, for example. So, you know, who knows there. So the reason why they've called it a Total War Saga is to sort of, it says here, to help the community understand that they are a spin-off and not the next major historical title. Then he mentioned about how different is it to previous Total War games. Well, it says here in terms of core gameplay it's not different, which we guessed already. If you've enjoyed previous games, you'll certainly be interested in Total War Saga games. It's more about focus. There might be as many playable factions or conquerable territories in them, but that could all be focused down to one specific region or country and a particular point in time. So we're thinking here straight away really zoomed in maps that could have about 100, I don't know, 150 settlements in them, but it could only be focused on one country, for example. So in fact, we've done it before. It says here, The Fall of the Samurai is exactly the kind of thing we're talking about. It was a standalone spin-off to Total War Shogun 2, focused on the pivotal event of the Boshin War, a concentrated Total War game which puts you right in the middle of a really dynamic moment of history where the outcome could have gone in a huge number of different directions. So yeah, I'm straight away thinking about medieval wars here that could really come to fruition. But still, I'm still holding strong to Total War Alexander. I know they said here they didn't want to necessarily focus on characters, but still, it is a really zoomed in area of the eastern part of the world and really concentrate on a pivotal moment in history, or about a decade of history. And again, the Alexander element is very important. Or possibly even so, they could look at focusing on the wars that happened, the sort of back and forth, the disagreements that incurred after Alexander's death for who was in control of his satrapies, etc. You know, after, as I say, he died in is it Persia, I think he died in. So yeah, so that could be something we could look at as well. And then you confirm here that this team is the Flashpoint project team, which was mentioned, of course, in that blog a few weeks ago. They go to say as well that obviously the next major historical game with its own large and dedicated new team will feature a new era that we haven't visited yet. This title is huge for Creative Assembly, and we'll be talking about it much more in the future. It's going to be a busy time for historical fans coming up, which of course is exciting, very happy to hear this. And then you go on to mention, what's the scope of this Total War game? How big will it be? When we talk about games based around these moments in history that lasted months or years, we don't mean short Total War games. They have a narrower focus, but there'll still be the epic sandboxes that players are familiar with. Again, Fall of the Samurai is a perfect example of this. The period covered in that game compressed down to a few months, but a lot happened within those few months. Future Total War Saga games may also cover time periods that short, where a lot happened, while others may cover conflicts spanning a couple of decades, but still focused on a single geographical area. So again, that really emphasises what I've already talked about, and for me, Total War Alexander. I keep mentioning it because I'm excited. I really want to see a Total War Alexander with an engine that we've got today. You know, we last saw it on Rome 1. Things have come on a lot since then, haven't they? So to see Alexander and to see that era again in all its full glory, which we can appreciate now, would be so satisfying. To help show the kind of scale we're talking about, they say here, the game that I'm currently working on has a map that is comparable in gameplay size to Total War Attila. Right, okay, well again, that even more so backs up what I'm thinking about being an Alexander game here, but focus on a smaller geographical area. So we're obviously thinking, aren't we, straight away, we're talking Macedon, areas of Greece, over into Persia, down possibly, I would say obviously down to the lands of Jerusalem, into Egypt, and further east, sort of, you know, on the barrier or on the borders, I should say, of India, and further into Asia. That's what I'm thinking. So straight away, that does compare to a map similar to the size of Europe in Attila. And the campaign would take as long to complete as any other Total War title does, focusing on a single geographical location. In this way allows us to go into greater detail with the period and setting. So yeah, that's a nice little snippet there, a little hint of what I think could be the next game. Then they go on to say they're what I like to call here table flip moments in history, where events are in the balance and could go in a number of interesting and unique ways. This makes them a perfect fit for Total War games, where it gives players the freedom to depart from the actual historical events and explore what might have happened had things gone differently. So straight away I'm thinking back to Roman period, I'm thinking Alexander again, I'm also thinking, you know, the War of the Roses, that could have gone in a massively different direction had Richard III kept his crown, and then obviously Henry VII did not take the English throne. It could have gone massively different, couldn't it? Also the American War of Independence. So these are things which they seem to be interested in and focusing on in their gameplay. So it says here, when you think of the possibilities in and around those moments, some of these really classic and inspiring moments of history, there's vast potential. Civil wars, great conquests, rebellions and uprisings, religious moments. So that could cover so many parts of history and really go into it. So there's a lot of potential here to have some really cracking games. And as with Total War traditionally, there's an almost endless list of possibility of time periods and settings for future Total War Saga games. So this is excellent news. This is going to be not just one game now, it's going to be a series of games which will start with this first one, Total War Alexander. I'm still going with that, I really am convinced of it. And then the last thing it said was, any hints yet as to the content? It says we'll announce it properly in the next few months apparently. But I can say that it's another spiritual follow-up to Total War Rome 2. There we go. That for me again just sets the stamp of approval, the Alexander stamp of approval, and moves the time period forward in much the same way. It's great being able to build on and optimize the tech and the content from those games. And like the work we did on Attila with Age of Charlemagne, which by the way, my opinion is one of the best DLCs for a Total War game, especially for a moment in history we've not spent enough time yet as a studio. So yeah, again, Alexander for me. When can we expect to get more information on your project? It says not just yet, but it's pretty soon, as I say. If you follow the forums and social media, we'll keep you up to date. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, maybe an announcement in the next few months, but boy oh boy oh boy, I did not see this one coming for it to be a series. That's what's really whetted my appetite today, shall we say. So yeah, I'm very happy. This could be a lot of potential for Total War. Take it into, not exactly, obviously it says here, not new eras, but a new way of representing the eras we've covered already, and going into that depth rather than width sort of philosophy that they've got, especially where we've had that already with Warhammer when the game first came out. We were told, weren't we, about Warhammer being very in depth as opposed to being width, and or as opposed to being quite expansive. It was more the fact that we wanted to concentrate on the four core factions at the beginning. So this could be the same sort of philosophy again employed with these Saga games. So yeah, that's it guys, just wanted to quickly share that with you today, this announcement. And yeah, but of course, as always, let me know down below what your thoughts are on all this. Do you think it could be Total War Alexander as well? And what other eras in history, you know, specific eras in history, will they cover in this series? Tell me down below in the comments. I shall await your responses. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Any new announcements that will be coming, I shall be sure to let you know as soon as I can. And until next time, take care and farewell.